She's one of the most fearless advocates that I know. She is the star of Queer as Folk on Showtime. Please welcome Michelle Clooney.
You want a loud one? Yeah, I want a loud one. Hey, well, I'm glad to be here today. The reason is unfortunate. When you think that one of the greatest neighborhoods in the greatest city in the world does not have a hospital to serve it, you have to say, what is wrong with this picture? It's frightening. You know, for over 160 years, St. Vincent's hospitals treated Titanic survivors, 9/11 victims, participants of the Stonewall Uprising. It was pivotal. Yeah. It was pivotal during the AIDS epidemic, being the first hospital to admit patients hit by the AIDS epidemic in the 1980s. St. Vincent's mission included denying no one their right to health care, regardless of their ability to pay. And over 160 years of health care was destroyed in a matter of days by money and greed. Now, every New Yorker, young or old, has a constitutional right to health care. St. Vincent's Board of Trustees, behind closed doors, without any cohesive plan for a continuation of services and without any public input, voted secretly to close its doors, and in a matter of days the hospital was gone. Ooh. That's right. And to this day there has not been one single public hearing on any level, city, state, or federal, to investigate what went wrong. But the community has come together in this crisis and formed the Coalition for a New Village Hospital. For over the past 6 months, the coalition has fought hard in the streets and City Hall and in the courts. In July, we secured a victory by passing a resolution with the help of Community Board 2 to demand that this building only be used for a hospital and not for luxury condominiums. No condos! 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 And we have to continue as a community to demand a full restoration of services and a full-service hospital that reflects the needs of our community.
Hey, candidate Cuomo, are you listening to us?
There we go. I want to introduce to you not only a friend of mine. Here I go. She's a woman of integrity, a woman I have trusted, and a woman I love, and a woman who speaks truth to power. And that is very hard to do. I want to introduce to you Yetta Kurland. And we counsel the legal fight to restore hospital services for the community.
On November 2nd!
What do we need?
A hospital! What do we need it now?
I can't hear you.
A hospital!
What do we need?
A hospital!
When do we need it?
Now!
What do we need?
A hospital!
When do we need it?
Now!
What do we deserve?
A hospital!
When do we deserve it?
Now!
When we started organizing for this rally, we were outraged that St. Vincent's was allowed to close without any appropriate plan for our health care, and that 100 days had gone by without a hospital. We said to ourselves, are we in a third world country or the West Village in Manhattan? Yeah. Are we horse trading? Is there an inside deal? What does that mean? We're told not to try. We're told there's no way to get a hospital and that we don't have a plan. The problem has never been that the community doesn't have a plan. The problem has always been that the Department of Health didn't have a plan when it allowed St. Vincent's Hospital to close in a matter of days in violation of our rights and in violation of the law. And it's been a problem that the public, you the public, has been shut out of this process. Now they tell us we need a needs assessment. Let me see a show of hands. How many people think we need a needs assessment to determine whether or not we need a hospital here?
No, we don't need a needs assessment.
We need a hospital.
You need a hospital? You want a needs assessment? All right, we'll give you your needs assessment. How many people here think we need a hospital here at St. Vincent's? In fact, we, the community, we have a plan and a goal. We have made it clear when we passed a resolution at the community board over 2 months ago to lock the use of this land so that it can only be used for a hospital. Yeah! Very clear, very simple plan. Speaker Quinn, we need you to sign on to this resolution. Our goal is to establish a full-service community hospital for Lower Manhattan from Battery Park to Midtown to replace the services lost as a result of the abrupt closure of St. Vincent's. We seek a full-service hospital with better quality of services and accountability to the public. We need more than an urgent care center. We need a hospital with an emergency room, hospital beds, and comprehensive medical care. What do we need? A hospital! What do we need? Now! What do we need? A hospital! When do we need it? Now! We need a hospital in our community. We deserve a hospital in our community. There is a way to get a hospital in our community, and we will settle for nothing less. There's a site, a structure right here with millions of dollars of medical infrastructure. There are revenue streams available from the federal government, especially given the strategic location of this hospital. There are state and city funds that can and will be brought in to make a viable financial package. Let me be clear, a hospital properly run will not lose money. That's right. We will need competent management. There are hospitals that are well managed in our city and competent managers that can run a new hospital. We send a message to these hospitals and healthcare providers today. We, the community, will work with you. No matter how much pushback we get, we are here to let everyone know. We want you to help us restore a hospital for our community. You know there's going to be obstacles that already have been, including real estate interests eager to build on the footprint of the old St. city and state health commissioners and our brothers and sisters
Coalition for New Village Hospital, somebody who's been a resident of this area for many years. Somebody who's been a resident of this area for many years, somebody who is the lead plaintiff in the Coalition's lawsuit to demand a hospital at this location, somebody who's been a leader in this fight, longtime St. Vincent's patient, longtime hero of this community, Richard Stack.
Richard is a courageous hero for all of us, of which we owe a great debt of gratitude. He was the lead plaintiff in our lawsuit when we went into state court. So please give another round of applause for Richard Stack.
Thank you. Hello! In 1988, I was diagnosed with AIDS-related complex. In 1988, I was diagnosed with AIDS-related complex. Until St. Vincent's closed.
They want to hear you, Richard. I'm going to hold this right up to your mouth for you, all right?
Hold the yellow one up close to your mouth.
Take that one off. Okay.
How's this? Can you hear me now? Well, tough. This is it. So live with it. In 1988, I was diagnosed with AIDS-related complex. Before St. Vincent's closed, I had never been in a hospital other than St. Vincent's. I had a hip replacement, I had pancreatitis, and I had a triple bypass. And closure of St. Vincent's has put another hole in my heart. I lived 3 blocks from here. 36 years I've lived here. And for the first time in my life, I feel homeless and afraid. For the first time in 22 years of living with AIDS, something has got to be done to help persons with AIDS. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you, Richard!
Thank you, Richard.
Richard, that was right.
Care at this institution, St. Vincent's. And how many people who receive care here think the reason this hospital is closed is because of a failure of the caregivers there? For 160 years, caregivers at this hospital treated New Yorkers. For 160 years, the caregivers at this hospital treated New Yorkers. And now I'm proud to introduce to you a premier caregiver at this institution, a founding member of the Coalition for a New Hospital, Miss Eileen Dunn.
Thank you. On April 30th, the employees in this hospital's hearts were broken. On April 30th, at the Hudson Guild, I told the people there that we needed a revolution in this city to get this done. I called upon them again today because there were many, many more people here. We need a revolution. We need the politicians to listen to what we're saying. They refuse to listen to what we're saying. They have come now up with an assessment committee, an assessment of the hospital. That assessment should have been done before the hospital closed, not after the hospital closed. So I'm calling upon the community to help us with this revolution, to make the politicians hear us and understand that they need health care here on the Lower West Side. Okay, the next speaker is known in the St. Vincent's community. He's known by the doctors and nurses at St. Vincent's. He's become my friend and my buddy through all of this. We hardly knew each other before. The man is brilliant. My friend, Dr. David Kaufman.
Thank you very much. Thank you for all showing up today. This is a great crowd. Can you hear me? All right. I have a speech I wrote and I'm going to read it, but I'm going to start with a little free advertising. New York Magazine just came out with an issue. On the stands tomorrow, lead article on the cover. Something is killing our hospitals. St. Vincent's was just the beginning. We have to stop this. It has to stop. You all know it's really not 100 days since this great institution closed. I'm trying.
Put it right against your mouth. Put it right against your mouth.
You know, it's more than 100 days. It took St. Vincent's Hospital administrators and the Department of Health, are you ready? It took them 24 days to shut down a 160-year-old institution. And they did it. They shut this legend in a sloppy, shoddy, irresponsible, and probably illegal way. Our coalition took 70 days to plan this rally. I think there may be some lessons there. It's something to think about, but it's really sad. We will never know, we'll never know because of this closure how many lives have been lost over these last 170 days. We will never know how many needless deaths have occurred while ambulances were stuck in traffic, stuck at gridlock, stuck at red lights, trying to travel miles and miles from the west side with dying patients in the back. We'll never know how many of our citizens pathetically waited on stretchers and waited to be triaged in overcrowded and understaffed emergency rooms. Some of you, I hope, have read the articles in the Daily News and City Limits that have documented this. We'll never know how many heart attacks were inadequately treated, how much muscle died, how many strokes were not prevented, and how many brains died, and how many patients now lie brain dead or just dead. We're never going to know all these tragic consequences of these delays in care because of the confusion and the chaos in the emergency room staffed with overwhelmed doctors and nurses and other staff. They are struggling and trying, but they cannot keep up with the demand. And sadly, this is happening despite the valiant and heroic efforts of that staff. We will never know how many surgeries, how many angiograms, endoscopies, joint repairs, you name it. We'll never know how long they've been delayed and at what cost to the health of patients because of lack of operating room capacity. I have a patient last week who was obstructed. He is still waiting to get into the operating room. There is no space. Maybe the Department of Health knows these answers, and maybe Dr. Daines, the commissioner, knows. But guess what? Guess what? He's not sharing those statistics with us. You know, there's a lot of art, much art to the practice of medicine, and we all try to practice, we doctors and nurses try to practice evidence-based, fact-based medicine. So I want to give you some facts. St. Vincent's had 340 inpatient beds at the time it closed. Those beds were to take care of medical, surgical, psychiatric, obstetric, pediatric, and very critically ill patients. St. Vincent's had 22 operating rooms going full-time every day of the week and often on the weekends with a wide range of trauma, emergencies, and scheduled surgeries. St. Vincent's was the only level 1 trauma center, the only one between the ferry and 114th Street, and it had over 60,000 visits a year. St. Vincent's provided desperately needed care for thousands upon thousands of patients, huge numbers of them poor, uninsured, vulnerable, coming from all over the boroughs, not just in this zip code here. And it served them in 23 clinics, 18 mental health sites, and dozens of homeless shelters and outreach programs. The hospital had 3,000 employees, 880 nurses, and over 1,000 physicians on the staff. What happened? I want to know. I'm asking you. No, I'm not asking you. I'm asking our elected officials, our appointed bureaucrats, and especially our Commissioner of Health. Where have all those patients gone? What has happened to those services? Who is caring for these tens of thousands of patients? You know, I'll give the Department of Health credit for one single thing. They did actually succeed in getting rid of hospital beds, their clearly stated goal. Unfortunately, the department and our city and state officials did nothing, absolutely nothing, to ensure that this huge loss of critical healthcare services would and could be delivered anywhere else. It's a disaster out there. It's shameful. It's not just this institution, this hospital that is bankrupt. Our city government, our state government, and our Department of Health have pursued an utterly bankrupt policy, totally disregarding their legal and their moral responsibilities. They have abandoned the population of the Lower West Side. Over 1 million people live here, work here, and tour here, and there's no hospital. Let me tell you one final thing. As Yetta said, this is not a done deal. Behind me stands a hospital that is barely 25 years old. It is waiting for patients and waiting for the return of doctors and nurses and staff. And I guarantee you, if a sponsor steps forward, if one of our great academic medical centers in the region realizes the need and has the courage and the resources to open this building, we will be there and we will come back. It's not a done deal, and you can't forget that. We need to know that this is, we hope and know this is the beginning, a new beginning. Like Yetta said, it will take relentless pressure and voice from this community. We need you, all of you, to speak up endlessly and relentlessly and speak out, write, email, demonstrate, and never ever give up. We must have a hospital. Thank you.
Dr. Danes, you must explain! 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 Thank you. Woo!
All right. Our next speaker is someone who has never been afraid to fight for what is right, for our country in uniform, and for the civil rights of the LGBT community across our country, out of uniform and in uniform, and on every issue of import in this country. I want to introduce a great hero of mine personally and a great hero of this community, Lieutenant Daniel Choi. Thank you.
Can you hear me? Mr. Mayor, can you hear me? No. Madam Speaker, can you hear me? No. Senator Gillibrand and Schumer, can you hear me? No. New York, can you hear me? Yes! What do we need?
A hospital!
When do we need it?
Now!
What do we need?
A hospital!
When do we need it?
Now!
People ask me why I wanted to be here today. Somebody asked me, of all the places that I could be, why would I want to be here in front of this hospital? Well, the truth is, when we come to a hospital, it's not because we want to be there. It's because we need to be there. And that is why we are here today. We need to be here today. And so long as there are people in our community that need us to speak up for them, we will remember that we are our brother's keeper, that we are our sister's keeper, and that is why we need to be here today, and that is why we are going to stay here and keep on coming out here until they do hear us in the halls of power. In combat, whether you're in Iraq or Afghanistan, Vietnam, or any kind of war situation, you get injured and you depend on that medic. You depend on that buddy on your team to take care of you. You want that guy, that gal to be there as quick as possible. You need them as closely to your side as they can be. And when you don't have the resources for that very important person on your team, what happens to your entire team? What happens to your entire community? And when this medic, St. Vincent's Hospital, was there on September 11th, it was the closest buddy that we could find. It was the closest buddy that could help us. As leaders, we have to think, when the next emergency happens, whether in our schools or in our homes, when the next disease hits, who's going to be there for us and who's going to be their resource to take care of us? And how long and how far do we have to travel in order to get to that medic? How far? How many blocks should we walk for health care? How many blocks should we walk in order to save the lives of our community members? How far? Should we have to march all the way uptown? Should we have to do an AIDS walk every time that we want to get treatment? How far do we have to walk? It should be right here. It should be right now. Health care for all of us, taking care of our brothers and our sisters. And that is why I'm proud to stand here with you, shoulder to shoulder, and say that what we need is a hospital. What we need are leaders to say that is more important to take a look at the real needs of our people than the real estate desires of some other people. We do not need a study. We do not need to study the numbers anymore. What we need is a hospital. We need you to know that if all of us here hold our people accountable, whatever their party or whatever friendships we might have with them, our desire and our responsibility to look after our brothers and sisters supersedes any politics. And we will hold you accountable. You want to study? We will find out. We will find you out. And we will take a look at the interests and all of the benefits you're getting. You can run, but you cannot hide. We gonna find you. We gonna find you. Well, you can run and tell that, homeboy. Homeboy. I hope they can hear us now. I hope they never forget that we are here. We will not disappear, Governor. We will not disappear, Senator. We will not disappear, Mayor. We will not disappear, Commissioner. We will not disappear, Speaker. We will not disappear. What do we need? A hospital! When do we need it? Now! What do we need? A hospital! When do we need it? Now! Thank you.
Our next speaker is going to have a few words about the role, well, I mean, I'm going to let him speak for himself, but about the role that this hospital had in our lives, our community's lives, and in our spiritual lives. It's my honor to introduce Bishop Alfred Johnson.
I first want to take the announcement to thank Yetta and Angela, who are indeed two of your most strongest prophets of God. I don't know anything about their religion, but they are prophets of God. They were at our church, which is right across the street here, the Church of the Village, 9:30 yesterday morning, and they were in church this morning, and they spoke before our church, and you should know you have our total support.
Woo! Thank you!
Members of our church, trustees, live in the neighborhood who are here for that purpose. We've had a wonderful experience with this hospital. I've only been here 5 years, but there's not been 1 year, one moment, even 2 or 3 times a year that I've not been a part of this hospital. We had prayer meetings from people in this hospital who come to the church for a time of prayer and support. We've run health community. We've held health fairs every year for the last several years, cooperating also with the Latino Commission on AIDS. We have held numerous services and cooperated, but more than that, we have been a friend, a partner in the community. Let me just say in conclusion, if you will, sometimes we have talked about the church as a hospital for souls. Well, the Jesus we worship cares about mind, body, and soul. So we can't do holistic healing without a hospital. And we need a hospital when? Now! When do we need it? Now! We need a hospital now. Let me just give you 3 quick scriptures from our Judaic Christian heritage. Jeremiah 29 talked about the fact when the people wanted to relocate because they lacked spiritual assets to remain, the prophet Jeremiah said, no, don't leave. Seek the help of the city where you are right now, and in their help, you will find yours. We are seeking help now for a hospital now because we want our help to spread throughout the world. Countless stories of Jesus in his healing often said, your faith has made you well. And by saying that, your faith has healed you. People like Yetta and Angela are walking with faith. And out of the African American civil rights struggle, we had a little song that says, don't let anybody turn you around. We also had a song that said, walk together, children, and don't get weary, because there's a great camp meeting on the other side. We walk with faith, not with facts so much, not with politics indeed. We walk with faith, and we'll walk through walls. Finally, the word I'd like to share with you are those words from 1 Corinthians 13. The things that are left are faith, hope, and love. Fight with love. Passionate love for this hospital, for our people, for the health. Fight with love. Unless you think love is a weak thing, remember, Jesus, so filled with love, turned the whole temple out because of irrational and improper politics. Remember, Jesus even gave up his life and became a political prisoner, killed by capital punishment, by the politics and the hierarchy of the church, if you will, if I may say. Fight with love. Don't let your love ever have a fire that's too light. May God bless us in the midst of this struggle. Know you have a friend indeed in our little church of the village across the street. God bless you. We are with you.
You guys ready for another chant? Check it out. Life and death, this is a mess. Until we get a hospital, we will not rest. Life and death, this is a mess. Until we get a hospital, we will not rest. Life and death, this is a mess. Until we get a hospital, we will not rest. Life and death, this is a mess. Until we get a hospital, we will not rest.
Where would he go? Where would anyone go if they had a crisis like that and the nearest hospital was 2 miles away? Good question. And St. Vincent's has one of one of the best emergency pediatric units. What do we need? A hospital. When do we need it? Now. What do we need? A hospital. When do we need it? Now. Thank you.
Please welcome Heather Matarazzo.
I'm not here with a message of sadness. I'm here with a message of hope. For those of you that don't know, St. Vincent's was started by 4 nuns. Just 4 nuns. 4 individuals. Imagine what all of us can do. For those of you that don't know, St. Vincent was the patron saint of charitable causes.
Yeah.
What is this if not a charitable cause? What is a hospital? It is a place to get care, to get love, to get compassion. I was sitting across the street before I came here. And what surged into my memory was that my grandfather was a patient at this hospital. He passed away a few years ago. And he'd been to many hospitals. And my direct experience is that this was the best hospital where he got the best care. We are not numbers. We are human beings.
Yes!
Each one of us bleeds red. Gay, straight, black, white, Catholic, Muslim, Jewish, it doesn't matter.
Yes.
We all have struggles, but I've also found that we all have opportunities to grow. I know for me that in my experience, I could sit on the sidelines and bitch and moan about the state of our nation, about the state of affairs. But then I got the gift of remembering that I get to take action. I get to show up. I get to be a part of. We are part of the solution. We are not part of the problem. If we can afford to dig up 2nd Avenue for a subway, we can afford to open this hospital. If we can afford to raise taxes on cigarettes, we can afford to open this hospital. If we can afford to have smear campaigns for politics, the billions of dollars that politicians spend on less than subpar ads, they can give us some money to open a hospital. I thank you all for coming out here. I implore you to continue taking action.
Thank you. Yes! Thank you, Yetta. And now we have a very special treat. Singer-songwriter Carolyn Murphy has put together a special song written just for us that she's about to perform for you. Let's hear it for Carolyn Murphy!
Here lies a legacy of lullabies from Jack and Jill to Humpty Dumpty, shattered and all, where the wind can blow, the bough can break, the cradle can fall. But for the rest of us in the West, who do we call? 'Cause I've got a little girl who can barely stand. I've only got nursery rhymes and a mama's hand. Yes, I can hold her, but she's getting that small. But you don't understand, to get across town is a long way to crawl. So no, don't you tell me I'll just have to wait it out. When my baby is dying right now. To the east, oh, tell her we're climbing the beach slope to a giant's feast, where there's candy and care, where there's blankets to spare, where there's cows, 'cause and everyone's telling us we just have to wait it out. But what if we're dying right now? Right now. Then here lies a legacy lullaby where everyone falls and everyone cries for help, for help. Then the cradle that fell has to rise.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me now? Okay, what do we need? When do we need it? What do we need? When do we need it? Excellent. I'm so happy to be here today. I'm so happy to be a part of this rally and be asked to speak. It's a real honor. I'm the pastor of St. John's Lutheran Church down on Christopher Street. I've been in the neighborhood a few years, but before that, I was the priest in charge of St. Paul's Chapel downtown across the street from the World Trade Center site. And I remember on 9/11, walking back downtown after we had cleared out, after having watched on the news and seeing the doctors and nurses who were prepared to receive patients here at St. Vincent's. I remember the image of all these people out here standing in their scrubs, ready to make a difference the very minute anyone showed up. And that memory has been emblazoned in my brain and will remain there. St. Vincent's has been an important part of this community, and it continues to be a needed part of this community. We have to find a way to recreate this hospital and to create a hospital here for this community. Yeah? A little while ago, some women decided they wanted to vote. And people said they were crazy. And they said, no, we're not. They decided to stand up and do something about it. They decided that the women's suffrage movement needed to be born and it needed to make a difference. And it happened, didn't it? Not too long ago, Dr. King had a dream. And people thought he was crazy at first. People said this will never happen. But continuing the dream made it a reality. Not long ago, something down the street called the Stonewall Uprising took place. Or the Stonewall reclaiming took place. People didn't know what was going to happen. Weren't quite sure. But you can see the difference today. I was on my way over and talked to a friend who wanted me to go out to lunch, and I said, I'm gonna go do a rally. I have the privilege of speaking at a rally, or at least trying to over sirens. And I said, I'm going to speak on behalf of St. Vincent's and the hospital, and the coalition to get a hospital in our community. And she said, well, that's over, isn't it? And I said, oh no. We haven't even begun. Yeah. Amen? 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 All right. I'm glad to be with you. Thank you for having me. We need a hospital, right? Yeah. Where do we need it? Yeah. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend. Our next speaker is the president of the National Federation of Nurses. He's the president of 70,000 nurses across the country. My friend, my president, Barbara Grant.
this institution. And nobody, no one can understand how this institution that stood for 9/11, as he said, in the street, ready to go, could possibly ever close. I have but one message for this village. Election day is coming up. Vote! 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 Your politicians have let you down. We will not be silenced. Get out there and vote and kick your asses to the street! Thank you, big girl.
A lot of energy. Listen. Hello. Our next speaker is a West Village parent and one of the founders of the Public School Parent Advocacy Committee, an important member of our community, an important member of this struggle, is Eileen Kaufman.
Good afternoon. I'm one of the quieter voices today, but I have a piece of information that was startling when I sat down and thought about it. On any given weekday, there are easily between 1,600 and 2,000 children of elementary school age and younger within a 10-block radius of this hospital. Every single weekday, the playgrounds are bursting with infants and toddlers. When something happens to a child, where will they go now? Anaphylactic shock. A child whose parents don't even know their kid's allergic to peanuts on a deadly level. Where will they get their child fast enough for safety now? The closing of this hospital not only compromises that kind of emergency care, it also has created a wait time for ambulances because the ambulance force of the city has been cut down by a large percentage because of the closing of this facility. The wait time is half an hour or more for an ambulance now. So I speak for those who can't speak for themselves, although Antonia did a great job. And I speak for the geriatric and those minutes make every difference. Let's work, let's appeal to our politicians, let's get a hospital reopened here. Thank you.
Our next speaker is the program director of the New York State Nurses Association. The New York State Nurses Association represented the nurses here and continues to in the bankruptcy court. They helped us get our severance pay. They're still working on our vacation pay. And they're making sure that the thieves don't steal our money. So I'd like to present to you Lorraine Seidel. She's program director. There are 37,000 nurses in New York State that are represented by NYSA. Right?
Blondie.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. We are in this angry and we're fighting for our lives. We're fighting for the lives of 500,000 residents between 58 Street South. And we're going to work with this part of the city who have no option if this hospital doesn't return to open doors. We have a little saying at the New York State Nurses Association. We represent 37,000 members, and every one of them knows about this hospital tragedy. And every one of them is committed to our little saying, and that saying is whatever it takes for as long as it takes. Whatever it takes for as long as it takes. Whatever it takes for as long as it takes. Whatever it takes for as long as it takes. The nurses basically care patients, one patient every single day, patients, as Eileen said, and will in fact be there
Wake up.
Coalition for a New Village Hospital. They have put together this is Eileen used the word convention. And when Eileen uses the word revolution,
Blondie, look up.
Thank you, Nurses Union. Thank you. Thank you, nurses. The next person I'd like to welcome to the stage is a very close friend of mine. She's someone I look up to in the world of politics. She's a fierce advocate on many levels. Please put your hands together for the president of Marriage Equality New York, Kathy Maria O'Connell.
wow, look at all these guys. Can you hear me? What do we want? Hospital. When do we want it? Now. Thank you very much. I come to you today from many capacities in my life. Some as an LGBT activist a long time. I've seen what this hospital did for people with AIDS. No one else would do it. I come to you as a New Yorker. I've seen what this hospital can do in a crisis. And if we think something like 9/11 can happen again, we're all being very negative.
No, it's okay.
Most of all, today I come to you as the mother of a fifth
I
grader
told
in
Blondie to look up.
CS3.
She don't want to look
With a
up.
half-hour wait for an ambulance, I am really not secure that there's not a hospital closer to my daughter. Now, we know that the school administration would do their very, very best to get my child medical care, but would it be enough? I don't think so. What do you think? No! I look out here and I see a lot of families that I know from this area, and I see that a lot of concerned parents thinking the same thing I am. If a child has an asthma attack in their school, how long is it going to take? How long is it going to take? I'm waiting long enough for that answer. How about you? Say that I look out here and I see our local residents. What I don't see is fierce determination on the part of our elected officials. So I will say to you that it will take your fierce determination and your dedication to get this accomplished, to have this hospital open as soon as possible. I'm tired of waiting. How about you? Thank you all very much. I will do whatever I can in my capacity as that.
The person I'd like to call to the stage in a journalistic capacity has also been a fierce advocate for our community, publishing a very important newspaper, which I believe is the West Village newspaper, the Westview. Please welcome Mr. George Cassius.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know if I can stand up much longer. Oh, okay, can you hear me now? Okay, I prepared this speech, but I'm not going to read it. Running the newspaper, we have to deal with the PR departments. So we have been contacting our elected officials. We have Dick Gottlieb, who is with the State Assembly. Tom Duane, who is our state assemblyman, is the chairman of the Health Committee. Here are two powerful politicians who were in a position 4 months before this hospital ever closed to do something about it. They did nothing. When I asked Dick Gottlieb, finally I met him by accident, what can we do politically to get this emergency room open? He said, we can do a study. How long will that study take? 4 to 6 months. It's called a needs study. I want to ask you, do we need a hospital? Yeah! And when do we need it? Now! I'm going to make this very short. If a child ran out from this crowd into that street and was hit by a taxi cab, we would have to call 911. And an ambulance would have to come from Beth Israel at 16th Street and 1st Avenue. With a hospital, they could walk 40 yards into this room. What do we want? A hospital!
St. Vincent's Hospital is in many ways the heart and soul of this community, of our bodies, of our souls, and also of our community's economy. Somebody wants to speak. I've got our next speaker is going to speak to how the loss of this hospital has impacted our small businesses, has cost us jobs, has made our streets less safe. I'm proud to introduce a local business owner, Nikki Perry of Tea and Sympathy.
Hello, everybody. Have you all noticed how many of our businesses have closed down? Yes. I have stood in the streets and cried with people that have been working in their stores for 25 years and more. Shame. Shame. This is a disgrace. I have been on my block for 20 years. This is the first year that I have had to lay people off. This is the first year that I have had to tip my waitresses because all the businesses, nobody's going out to lunch. The businesses in the neighborhood are dying along with people. What are we going to do about this? We cannot stand around for any longer and wait. We have to come out every time Yetta calls us and fill the streets with people demanding.
Thank you, Nikki Perry. And I have one more ask for you today. When you're thinking about where to go for brunch, where to buy a new outfit, or where to shop, please frequent your local businesses here in the West Village because they are being hit hard and they are collapsing almost as quickly as this hospital collapsed.
On your lunch break, if you have the time, please let our elected officials know our public needs to be part of the process, at the center of the process. And in closure, this hospital served in many ways. Obviously, the emergency care and the inpatient care was very, very important. But with 160 years of medical care, there was an intricate web of health care that when this hospital closed, was shattered forever. And I'm not sure our public officials and even we understand the tremendous loss that we have suffered because of that. And in closing, as a tribute, we're going to have some people come forward and just read as we walk out, as we leave the rally, from a list of just some of the many, many, many outpatient services, and many of which, if not most of which, have already been closed. Thank you. I'll see you guys on October 21st, right? You're going to take those flyers, you're going to call, you're going to email your elected officials, right? And we're going to keep coming out, right? And it's just going to get bigger and bigger, right? And we're going to get a hospital right here, right? What do we need? What do we need? Thank you.
Listen to all the services that were lost. Cystic Fibrosis Center, Medical Associates on 14th Street, Pediatric Associates 14th Street, Pediatric Cardiology Clinic, General Pediatric Clinic, Pediatric Gastroenterology Clinic, Pediatric Infectious Disease Clinic, Pediatric Neurology Clinic, Pediatric Surgery, Pediatric Urology, Pediatric Allergy Clinic, the DOHMH School-Based Mental Health Program, Child Trauma and Wellness School-Based Clinic Satellite, Clinic School-Based Clinic Satellite,
anesthesiology, pain management, internal medicine, cardiovascular medicine, intervention cardiology, critical care medicine, gastroenterology, geriatric medicine, hematology/oncology, infectious disease, pulmonary critical care.
Chelsea Clinic, Chelsea Medical Practice and Senior Health, Chinatown Clinic, General Medical Clinic, Municipal Shelter, White Plains Satellite, Open Bar Drop-In Center, Peters Place, Barbara Kleinman Shelter, Bishop Joseph N. Sullivan Residence, Casa Rita Women in Need, Catholic Workers Joseph House, Skilled Nursing Rehabilitation Services, St. Vincent 52nd Street Medical B.C. Miller Practice, Senior Health and Senior Health House Calls, Jamaica Women's Assessment Center, Metropolitan to Community Church, Project Hospitality Drop-In Center, John Hughes House Drop-In Center, St. Vincent's Practice at St. Margaret's, Volunteers of America, Adult Primary Care Clinic, SRO Homeless Program, Ryan White Homeless, Shelter Care for Women, Catholic Workers Mary House, Charles H. Gay Shelter Care for Men, Care Center for Men, Brown Residence, Education Alliance, Grand Central Neighborhood Association, Harmony House, Method Clinics 123, Maxwell Institute of St. Vincent's,
How are you, Doc? What did you think about the turnout?
Oh, I thought it was great. It was great. A lot of people, a lot of concern. It was really great. Next time we'll have twice as much.
The turnout was terrific today. Our odds have been what they've always been. It's like pushing a big boulder up a hill. But you know something? The more they tell us to go away, the more insistent we're going to be. We are not going away. I refuse to give up this struggle. I love the people of the Lower West Side too much. I was here for 25 years taking care of them, and I want to be back here taking care of them.
You mentioned a New York Magazine article. Can you tell us a little about that?
Yeah, New York Magazine today is coming out with an article. It's not just about St. Vincent's, it's about healthcare in general. I believe they called St. Vincent's the Lehman Brothers of healthcare. So I would say people should be getting out and getting that magazine and have a good read.
We need a hospital.
One more time.
Now.
One more time. We need a hospital.
We need a hospital. Now.
Why are you guys involved in this?
Because we need a
Why?
hospital.
Because we need a hospital in Lower Manhattan.
Yeah.
Well, I think if people in power were involved in it, then I wouldn't have to be.
Yeah, right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Elected
Do you
officials
have
will
any
do their
ideas how
job.
this hospital could be funded?
St.
You got some
Bloomberg.
ideas? You got some
St. Bloomberg!
That's what you could call it. St. Mike.
Absolutely.
There's money to fund other projects.
It's funny because Long Island Hospital just got $130 million, and they're building 2 other hospitals in Long Island. Also, Vito Lopez just got some $100 million to get together with the Long Island Jewish Hospital in Brooklyn with another hospital to merge it with that hospital. There is no funding. The governor says that there's no funding. He just vetoed the 30% bill to help HIV people. They can't come here anymore. They gotta go somewhere else. St. Clair's it's gone. It's ridiculous. There's no money for people. There's money for politics, politicians, and their cohorts. That's all there is.
Well said.
There we go.
Well, keep coming back, Doctor.
Oh, of course. Right here. Yeah. The community board meeting is it's October 21st. That's Tuesday. Is it a Thursday? It's at 6 p.m. at Baxter Street, off of Grand. That's PS 130. Is that? Keep that one aside. Whatever. Community board 2. Yep, 2, which is where this is.
Oh, okay.
Thank you for coming today.
Hi, my name is Michael Markowitz, and I'm the father of the girl who spoke at the rally earlier. I'm on the Community Education Council, and I've been paying attention to the St. Vincent's issue for years now. I've been following the St. Vincent's issue very closely for a couple of years because of my concern that if it turns into condos, we would be overloading the schools in the neighborhood, both PS 41 and PS 3. My personal suspicion is that the original deal to move the hospital across the west side of the street and to convert the east side of the street to condos is still ultimately the end game. This neighborhood doesn't need a gigantic block-long sized condominium loading more kids into the neighborhood. What this neighborhood needs is a hospital. A hospital. A hospital. Thank you.
Why do you think there's been such conspicuous silence from the mayor's office?
I don't know. My guess as to why not just the mayor's office but politicians in general are quiet is because they don't want to be associated with a cause that won't end up being a winning cause. That's not the kind of political leadership we need or deserve in this town, let alone in the village. We need politicians to stand up for the right thing and to make the right thing happen, not just say, well, it looks like the developer interests are going to carry the day, we'll get out of the way. That's not leadership. That's not what we need in our politicians. As a parent, my interests are twofold. If my kid or the kids that my kids go to school with need hospital care, we want it to be close by. But I'm also very concerned that if an entire city block goes tall, high-rise condo, we're overloading the school system. It's been a tremendous, tremendous resource in the community to be able to take your kids to the local hospital. One of my 2 kids was born here. One of my 2 kids had life-saving emergency help here at the hospital. And as my daughter said when she was speaking earlier at the 100 Days Without a Hospital rally, those 2 minutes matter, and they matter a tremendous amount. And the loss of this hospital can't be replaced by telling somebody to take a longer ambulance ride or hop in a cab. That's just unacceptable. Not for a hospital that served the community since the Titanic went down, if not before.
All right, we're here today because when we started to organize this event, we were outraged that it had been 100 days without so much as a hospital or adequate health care here for Lower Manhattan. And as I stand here today, it's literally close to 6 months that we've gone without any kind of adequate health care, without a hospital for our community. There is no reason for that. There's an infrastructure here with millions of dollars of medical equipment. This is built to be a hospital. There are monies available. We need to focus our attention on finding those monies and restoring our services immediately. We don't have another 6 months. We don't have 3 months. We don't need a needs assessment. Everybody knows what the needs are. The hospital wasn't closed because of a lack of need. It was closed because of claims of financial mismanagement. If the Board of Trustees of St. Vincent's Hospital can't properly manage a hospital, there are plenty of sponsors, there are plenty of hospitals out there that can, and that is irrelevant because the people of downtown New York deserve a hospital. They have a constitutional right to health care, and we're going to keep showing up in the hundreds, now in the thousands, until our elected officials hear us and get to work finding a way to restore these services immediately.
What did you think about the journey?
It was beautiful. What a beautiful group of people from every community within our community. Beautiful people coming out today. It was a gorgeous day, and it was a huge crowd, twice the size that we've ever seen before. And I think that this group is going to keep growing, and we're going to keep showing up, and we're not going to go away. And our needs for healthcare aren't going to go away. And every day, the matter gets more and more serious, and the concerns get more and more of a crisis. There's an emerging health crisis here in Lower Manhattan, and we need help today. And it's amazing to see, when a community undergoes hardship, it's important for us to come together. It's incredible to see the unity and the unequivocal voice that we need a hospital here in Lower Manhattan. The article just broke today, an expose on the St. Vincent's Hospital closure. It was an expose on other hospitals who also are in danger of closing. Again, this is the West Village. This is not a third world developing country. Hospitals, schools, running water, these are the basic tenets of a civilized society, basic rights that we have as citizens of this country and of the state. And if this can happen in the West Village, it's going to happen in Queens and Long Island and across the country. We need to make sure that our elected officials, our public officials, our state agencies whose responsibilities it is to protect our rights do just that. And when they don't do that, that they're culpable and that they're held responsible. And that's just what we're going to do. And we need everyone's help. And we want people to go to www.demandahospital.blogspot.com. Come to our next event. There's no question that this can happen. There is no question that we need a hospital. There is no question that we deserve a hospital. When the hospital was announced that it was going to close, Congressman Nadler had gotten HUD monies available to continue the services. There are $200 million that have been earmarked for community services from 9/11 funds. There was an open U.S. Department of Defense contract for hundreds of millions of dollars. So the money is available, the need is available, the community wants it. All we need now is the political will to make it happen.
My name is Nikki Perry, and I'm a local business owner in the neighborhood, and I'm mad as hell.
Why, Nikki?
This is the most unbelievable thing, that they would shut down a hospital. This entire city, especially in this part of town, in the West Village, we have stood by the last few years apoplectic about big business, big real estate, taking over, kicking the people out of their homes and their businesses, people that have worked for 20, 30, 40 years, so that the greedy landlords can rent for extortionate amounts of money only the big corporations can afford. We have to draw the line at closing a hospital, because this hospital is not about little people or poor people or any other one kind of person. This is about everybody, rich, poor, famous, not famous, fat, thin, green, yellow, blue, pink. And it is unacceptable, totally unacceptable to be closing down a hospital. Do you not think we've got enough problems in the world without just letting people die? The turnout today was absolutely fantastic. I would say we had well over 1,000 people. What I will also tell you about this neighborhood is that this has become a huge family neighborhood, and most people will not bring their children to something like a rally where I'm sure that people get very hot-tempered and they're going to hear swearing and they're going to see anger and they could get crushed in the crowd. So I think that there was well over 1,000 people here physically, but I will tell you, emotionally, there are way more than 1,000 people that believe that we should have a hospital, that believe that this is completely wrong, it's irresponsible, and it's all about rich people and their real estate. Well, I'll tell you what, people, we have got enough expensive, astronomically expensive. Listen, we've got $22 million apartments over here on 14th Street that people aren't buying. So why do we need more? And anyway, once we've filled this with condos and wealthy people, where are they all going to go to the hospital? That's going to be even more people in our neighborhood with no hospital to go to. This is ridiculous. We're going insane. We need to get back to caring about each other, caring about our neighbors. And these politicians, you work for us. Okay, us!
Now, you were saying you're a business owner, and that for the first time you've had to lay people off. What's that about?
This is the first time in 20 years that my restaurant is empty. And I only have 20 seats, And if I can't fill a 20-seat restaurant for lunch Monday through Friday, there's something very seriously wrong. This neighborhood has been set up around a hospital that's been here for 160 years. It's called community, it's called commerce, it's called people working together. What has happened to community? I mean, in the last year, nobody cares about our schools, nobody cares about our hospitals. What do they think is going to happen in New York City if we have this constant, oh, well, it's only for the rich? This is not Greenwich, Connecticut. We are not trying to create, we do not want a gated community here. We want people of all stratas, we want people of all age groups, of all financial status, because we all have to live together. We all need each other. The young need the old need the young, the rich need the poor, and the poor need the rich. If this town is all full of rich people in their condos, who's going to fry their eggs and make their coffee and shine their shoes? They're going to get really bored doing that for themselves, aren't they?
So how do we get people who might not be as passionate as you out to fight? You say that there are a lot of people in this community that probably feel the same way as you do, but sometimes it's hard to get them out. How do you motivate?
Yes, I do think it's very hard to motivate people. Well, it's very hard to get everybody together at once, the same hour, the same day, the same place. You know, there were probably, I would say, at least 80 people that I talked to in the last month or so when I was trying to organise this that aren't here this weekend. And some of those people are the kind of people that would absolutely have been here. So, you know, it's kind of hard. It is. But I think if you started some sort of letter writing campaign, which is what we tried to do today, you know, I mean, listen, you shouldn't need to have a rally to tell you that a hospital in the middle of this neighborhood, in the middle of New York City, is necessary. I mean, surely everybody already knows that. Why do we need to rally? Why do we need to cajole people? Why do we need to beat it into their heads? It's a no-brainer.
So what do you say to people, lastly, who say, well, hospitals close, open and close all the time?
Well, that's fine. We've closed this. When's it going to reopen? That's what I say. It closes and opens all the time. Fine, that's great. Now open it. Which is going to be the next hospital? Which hospital is going to be, oh, look, nice piece of real estate? Because trust me, this is not the end of this story. This is going to carry on until this city has been so devastated. I mean, as it is, half the stores are empty, not just in this neighborhood, for rent, for rent, for rent, for rent, for rent. Why is this? Greed. Greedy landlords, greedy bankers, and a mayor that only cares about money. Money, this is a city full of people. People come before money. Money has to be a secondary issue. You have to put people first, and that is not what's been happening in this town for the last 10 years, which is why it's falling to pieces, and people are leaving in their droves.
Are you American?
I am an American citizen. I was not born here. I've been here for 30 years. I love this country. I believe in this country. I am so disappointed in the last 10 years as what's happened in this country. If anybody is disparaging about Americans, I am the first people to jump all over them, because I will not have it. I will praise and get behind the people of this country in a heartbeat. But I will tell you, if this is allowed to carry on, this country is going to be at the bottom.